What does it take to put together a couple dozen fish cribs on a cold, frigid, windy UP January morning?
Well, logs, slabs, sandbags, and one of the UP's most valuable resources, volunteers.
We got a lot of people out here putting these fish cribs together, and it's a great project. We're really happy to be involved with this whole thing.
Then we're once again back in the blacksmith shop for part 3 of our knife project. 9 million acres of forest, 1,700 miles of continuous shoreline, 4,300 lakes, 12,000 miles of streams, more than 300 waterfalls, 15 counties, 2 time zones, and 1 area code. Welcome to the Upper Peninsula. Welcome to 906 Outdoors. Tonight's show is about the efforts of one of the UP's many outdoor-related organizations to enhance the fishing habitat on Iron County's Michigami Reservoir.
This is the 3rd year that Wildlife Unlimited of Iron County has been able to do these fish cribs in cooperation with Wisconsin Electric and the DER through the permit process.
But even more so, it's about the people who make it happen.
This is the 3rd year of our projects, and we've got 3 people who spearheaded this. Bill Ziegler and Floyd Drops and Dave Grondin have worked extra hard for the last 3 years to get these cribs in. I'd also like to thank all of the volunteers here today in this lousy weather. And we did get a small grant from We Energies to help defray some of these costs. But most of our money comes from our annual April banquet for membership banquet. And without those people attending and contributing over the year, that we just wouldn't be able to do the things that we can.
Sometimes we find ourselves asking, why on earth do we live here? It's Sunday and we can't even buy a loaf of bread. The summers are short and the winters are long. There are way too many days with the temperature in the double digits with a minus sign in front of the number. Well, on days like this one, it's not hard to figure out. Living in the UP is certainly about hunting, fishing, beautiful places, and just being in the outdoors in general. But you can't make that list without pointing a finger at the most important ingredient, the people of the UP and their willingness to lend a hand. Whether it's putting together a benefit for someone in need or helping the neighbor pile his firewood, Upers don't even blink an eye. They do it without question. In doing what I do, I get to travel around and meet a lot of people. And I see it over and over, time and time again. Volunteers. Just about every town has some event that would not be possible without volunteers. Fishing tournaments, races, activities for kids, putting up duck houses, walking trails, habitat improvements, you name it. Volunteers are hard at work every single week of the year somewhere in the UP. Today's project is no exception. 30 men and women came out in spite of sub-zero conditions, for no other reason than to improve the fishing conditions for someone, for anyone who enjoys fishing here.
Today we're out on Michigami Reservoir, and it's so cold that my face is freezing up as I'm trying to talk. It's 4 degrees out here right now, the last time I looked, with about a 19-mile-an-hour northwest wind. So it isn't one of your better days to be working outside, but when you have all these people coming together and all this equipment coming together, you got to make the best of it, and it is what it is. So we're gonna make fish cribs today. Depending on the lake that you're dealing with, there may already be some cribs on them. Cribs have been put on lakes around the UP for years. Sometimes people just don't know that they're there. The first year, we actually put them in a bay up here behind me on to the right, in about a 20-foot flat. And the second year, we put them down on the other end of the reservoir there where the Deer River feeds in to the reservoir. And then this year they're going to be on the far end of the reservoir where it feeds into the wide waters in the bigger area.
Today's show is brought to you in part by Rapid River Knife Works.
Rapid River Knife Works is the largest custom knife factory showroom in Michigan. The 10,000 square foot showroom is awesome. Hunting knives, pocket knives, and kitchen knives. Watch your custom knife being made and engraved. Free laser engraving with your personal message or company logo. Lifetime warranty on every knife and free sharpening. Plus, visit Rapid River Knife Works gift shop for Stormy Cromer and RRK gear. Bring the family and visit Rapid River Knife Works today.
Wildlife Unlimited got into this along with some other guys, a whole group of guys, to provide more material for the fish to hide in. A friend of mine taught me a long time ago, when you have wood down there, you're going to have fish. They need the structure to live, to hide in, to hunt in. So the more wood you can get, the better off it's going to be, I feel. As the water is dropping down out here, the shoreline starts to get exposed more and more, and what happens is those weed beds that the fish were able to use are literally being wiped out because the water is dropping down into the bigger pools, down into the original river channels. These fish cribs are going to provide another situation where the fish are, the smaller fish, the walleye fingerlings in particular, they're going to have a place to hide, so they're not as readily eaten up by the bigger fish. If walleye fingerlings don't make the first year or two in this big body of water, they're not going to make it at all because they don't have enough places to hide. So these structures are going to provide more places for fish to hide. All species of fish are going to use them. They're not going to be in there all 365 days of the year, but they're going to certainly use it in the springtime for spawning in and around it, and they're going to use it for habitat in and around it. One study I read several years ago was that 70% of the fish you're going to find in a lake are going to be on, in, or around structure. Fish typically aren't just roaming from spot to spot. They're based on a drop-off, a weed bed, or wood. They want something to hide on, near, for either attacking bait fish, or bait fish are looking for a place to hide to get away from the big fish, so it all works together. We start out with 12 full cord of 6 to 8 inch maple logs, and they're hand picked for us so we can handle them, physically pick them up. We've got 600 pounds of sandbags that Ron Colonel's crew were really great about putting together for us with Williams Ready Mix. And they donated all the sand for this as well for the last 3 years. And so the 600 pounds of sandbags are tied on. We put 8 logs down, they're notched. We start putting some slab wood in between the layers as we go up to give the fish places to hide and shade for in the summer as well. And then the final layer is capped off with another layer of slab wood, and they're all nailed down with 16-penny nails. And when we're all done with all these, we take steel banding and we band the whole thing together like a nice tight sandwich. Come around April, when the ice starts getting soft, and typically people and animals can step right through the ice, these cribs will just get ripped right through the ice very violently and fall to the bottom. The number of cribs that we've got out here is a total of about 62 right now. The first year we dropped 20, the second year we were able to drop 20 more, and this year it looks like we're going to drop 22. It's all dependent on the logs and the size of the logs as to how many turn out. They're typically 8 by 8 feet, and they're 5 feet high with the slab wood I mentioned in between each of the layers. And they're laid out in a long line every other one. And the reason for that is so that the fish can get to and from them, but not that they're so far apart that they can't hide in them. So it's kind of like a brush pile for rabbits in a sense. So they're able to get in and out of them. We got a lot of volunteers from throughout the whole community, more people than I can even mention. Kim Nyland has been instrumental in helping me with this whole thing. Mark Stahovich as well. He's really been great with his equipment as well. And Todd Chamian and Brian Carrill, they've really been instrumental in this whole thing. And today we're even fortunate enough to have Mark Milcrest and the Fisheries Division guys out here helping us as well.
With the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, we like to help as much as we can with these private groups that do so much good for our area, in our lakes, waters, streams, and with kids in that. Wildlife Unlimited is a wonderful group. Habitat structures like this don't necessarily increase the number of fish in your lake, but they do help concentrate fish. In the wintertime, this reservoir is drawn down 15 feet. And at that time, a lot of the small fishes migrate into the deeper areas, and then they're vulnerable to predation by northern pike, walleye, larger crappie. And so they also have a small place where they can seek refuge. So there's a double component here where there's some refuge for these small fishes, and it's a great place to go there and try to catch the bigger fish that are trying to seek out those small fish.
If anybody is interested in doing fish cribs, I certainly would be available to try to help you. The DNR is a big stepping stone. You have to work with their DEQ people. Jim Karen was very helpful to me in filling out the application, along with Bill Ziegler. This is definitely going to help all species of fish for many, many years to come. And I'm really proud of that. Our grandchildren are going to be able to fish on these cribs and for many years.
906 Outdoors is brought to you in part by the Island Resort and Casino.
Experience the excitement this football season. Be where the action is. Bet America Sportsbook at Island Resort and Casino. Visit T McC Sports Bar to browse the latest lines and betting options, or build a bet on your time using Bet Builder online. Find everything you need to know on the Sportsbook page at islandresortandcasino.com. So grab your friends and get in on the action, because there's a new game in town. Bet America Sportsbook at Island Resort and Casino.
There's a fish. Look at there, pull bender, pull bender. Ugh. Yeah, there's a nice one.
You saw it right. We're fishing for smelt. This winter, I met up with a local fisherman at the head of the Keweenaw Bay between Lance and Baraga to see how he catches smelt through the ice.
This is the main part of it. This is what attracts him. Just an ATV bulb. I made it in high school. One of the only things that I really paid attention to learn about was things about fishing. You can't see it too well, but there's metal prongs on it. You just wire them to the two across, and you're on high beam, and just make sure you stick it in the water before you turn it on. They'll blow it if you plug it in now and turn it on because they get too hot too fast. But if you stick it in the water, not a problem. So you stick her in there about 5-6 feet, and I usually set it under my battery like this so that I don't lose it. And there is no positive or negative on this. This is just a regular straight, so you don't have to. And there it's on. And when it gets dark, this whole lake will glow right around his tent. And then he's got a light down and the other guy, so it brings him right in and attracts him. You can step into my office and we'll be good to go. Of course, you got to go to your local bait store and get some wax worms. But I always, I just kind of go plain Jane. I use just a regular Swedish pimple. It's a glow in the dark. I think it's a number 3. And then my trick is I get the teardrop with the bigger hook. Because if you get the small hook, time you get the wax worm on there, you got no room to hook the fish. So that's always been my trick. And I think a lot of people think that, smelt with small mouths. Well, no, not true. They'll take a number 4 or number 5 of one of them, no problem. So I've always seemed to have that work for me better. So that's how I usually do it. I usually always hook them backwards. See, that's like the head part. That holds on better. It seems like if you go string them that way and then just string one on, I just put one on the hook. A lot of guys fish 2-3 teardrops. I don't like that because you go through more wax worms. You usually catch them at one at a time. Every now and again you'll get a double, but all I usually use that for is to tell you what depth they're biting at. Like if they're on the top hook, they're say up a little higher or whatever. And because this is actually one of the first years I've ever used a graph. Usually I would just come out and go with depth. So I always wait till the top one gets the hole, and I usually go about 20 feet, about 7 pulls like that or so is what I usually set them at. So. And then, of course, you can watch it and see how it is. But I usually go there, and then when they come in, you can usually 20, 25 feet. Most nights you average 40 to 50. Years ago, when I had more time and, we'd stay till 10, 30, 11 or whatever, we'd get, if they bit good, we'd get 200 sometimes. Well, last Wednesday, me and a buddy, we had 150 right here. But they were one right after the other. Bite, so. When they're on there pretty heavy, you'll be amazed. They almost bend the whole rod over. You wouldn't think that a fish that small is that strong, but when they're hitting, it's very interesting, very fun. A lot of them use rod holders. A lot of guys can hold them steady too, but I found it's just easier on a pail. It's flat, and you can see it, and give it a little twitch every now and again, and try to tease them. And now they're starting to move in about 25 feet. You wouldn't think that there would be that many fish down there for that long period of a time, but they just keep moving in. 2 of them, double. See, when I say you get 2 at a time, you do get 2 at a time. When they're down there that thick, they go. So yeah, well, that's neat. Just wait all night for a bite and get a double. Bonus. These are actually perfect size for tip-ups too. Real shiny too out the lake compared to the river. They're real blue, like a purplish blue color along there, In the lake, or in the river, they're always gray. That's got to be a big one. They don't even bend the rod. Oh, I got the other line too. Lucky. Yep, awful tiny. Awful tiny if he is. He might be, but... Oh yeah, no, there's a lunker. State record there. French fry. That's it. That's it. Call them if you're eating them. Nice little French fry. And like I said, if you're gonna eat them, this is what you eat them. Eat them on the lake here compared to on the river. Because when you clean them, you're totally amazed. You're like, oh, it ain't all stuck to the sink and the scissors and everything. And it's like actually cleaning a regular fish. Everything comes out all nice and they're more firmer. Actually, when you cook them, they curl up when you get them on the cold water like that. So, really, there you go. Got a pole bender. That's a nice one. Monster. Good eater. Actually, that size is the best for pike bait. A little bit bigger, gives the pike a little something to eat. It seems like you get more bigger fish with the smelt, like the minnows and that, and the shiners. It seems like they pull them off on you, and oh, the size of that one. That's a nice one. On the old teardrop. I got him on the upstring. Got him on the little pimple. The old glow-in-the-dark one. Don't really matter too much on the color, but I usually use a lot of oranges and greens. When they're biting, they're not real picky. I got a buddy that fishes. He uses just a bare hook and a waxworm. So I mean, it's all depends on what mood they're in, I guess. Oh, that's a nice one. That's more of a half a meal there. You can almost fillet him. Okay. That one? Yep. They remind me of mini piranhas, is what I always think of them as, because they got these little tiny fangs on them and they're very vicious. You can't even get the worm back from them a lot of times when you go to take them off. They want to keep it. Here, I'll show you the fangs on these things. I'm amazed. Well, look, you can't even get the line out of them. The teeth on these things are like, for as small as they are, they're huge. I mean, I can imagine if them were like 4 or 5 pounds, they're like little tiny piranhas. Big male. It's rough scale. That's usually how you can tell they're males. Little female. Look at a big old belly on her. She's all ready to go spawning in the spring. So you can see. Oh, I missed them. I miss a lot. Yeah, it was always my joke back in the day. I'd come out here and at least I know I can't get skunked doing this, but last year I had to sit here for 4.5 hours, so I didn't get skunked. I caught one smelt, but I said there was no way I was ever gonna have that on my record. I got skunk smelt fishing, so I toughed them out.
One of the most important traditions of deer camp is the table. It's where we gather to eat, drink, and tell stories. So this deer season, give your camp table the respect it deserves by decorating it with some of your very own delicious homemade venison sausage made with 906 Outdoors Cooking Wild seasonings. Mix and heat, slice and eat. It's that simple. Top it off with your own snack sticks. Get yours today at cookingwildseasonings.com. Well, I once again found myself back at the blacksmith shop for a look at the final steps of finishing the blade.
What we'll do is we'll put the knife blade inside the kill here. What's going to happen here now is it's going to start ramping itself up to 437 degrees for an hour. Then from there it'll go into the second stage, and then it'll go from 437 up to 1475. The chances are there'll be blisters all over the steel. And to combat that, I got an argon set up here that makes an inert atmosphere inside there, and it'll combat that blistering. We take and hold it at that temperature for approximately 20 minutes. At that particular point, I'll open it up, take the knife blade out, and put it in a 100-degree tempering oil. Okay, here we go, 1475 at 100 degree oil. And we go back and forth with the blade. We don't go against the side of the blade. If I go the other way, you run a chance of warping the blade. In heating the oil, it cools it faster than it would if it was cold oil because of the viscosity of the oil. Thinner the oil, of course, by heating it, the faster it gets rid of the heat up to a point. Some people say, well, why don't you use water? Well, you'd be too severe for this type of steel. You use water, more than likely crack it. Now the blade is hardened. So then we got to draw some of the hardness out. So we punch in 260 for the first hour. Then we go over to 400 for the second hour. Then I'll take it out and I'll just leave it go down to ambient temperature. At that particular point, I can take a dull file, slides over the blade. A sharp file, it should start grabbing a little bit. We had this blade up real nice and shiny, but that's when it was in a soft state. But after heat treating, it became fairly hard. And in the heat treating process, of course, there was some distortion on the blade. Not much, but there was. So I had to go through the whole finishing sequence again. I had to go through all the different belts. And now I'm going through the different compounds. Okay, now we'll go to second stage here. Different wheel. Don't ever try to buff going in the edge. That wheel will grab this thing and take it right out of your hand. Only God knows where it's going to end up. Believe me. Okay, the second wheel, it's done. Then I go to a real light compound. Still needs a little bit final polishing, but I'll do that after I get the handle put on it. These are all the components that we're going to be using to make the handle. The first thing we'll be doing is cutting a piece of brass off here for the hilt. We'll be doing the same thing with all these other spacers here. All these hilts will be silver soldered on. Then I'll take and make a spacer out of this here. This is my card of paper, different colors, red, white, and blue. Then I'll take a piece of this. It's a man-made material. That'll go there. Then there'll be another one of these spacers going here. Then there'll be a thin brass piece that'll be going here. The whitetail antler handle will be going on here. That's going to be a real Uper handle. And we already cut the slot in there for the handle go over the tank. Once I get all these spacers cut, put in place, then I'll take them all apart, take them all off of here again. Then I epoxy every one of them, put them together, put the whole thing. Then I fill this with epoxy, put the whole thing together. When it's all epoxied together, I let it set overnight, drill a hole, and then I put a brass pin in there. Yeah, I probably wouldn't really have to do it, but I do it anyway to make sure that, somehow or another the handle could come loose, which I doubt very much it could, but it just safeguards against that. And then when the whole knife is all done, I can take this here and I can round this off, make it nice round button on the end here, and then I can scrimshaw a buck's head in it. This here knife here, this is really old, but you can see where this buck's head scrimshot in there.
Be sure to watch next week for the final segment of our knife project.